Alright, so what a eventful weekend that we just had this past weekend, but also this is also a weekend that the DB3 brothers want to forever forget. Let's start with the main star of the show, the main key component of the whole entire show, the whole entire weekend, Keyshawn Davis. Keyshawn Davis misses weight by a total of 4 pounds versus Edwin De Los Santos, which ultimately cancels the main event, in which ended up with Abdullah Mason being the main event versus Jeremiah Hakatila, in which he stops him, and I believe in round 5. I think it was due to a cut, but that was also a great performance from Abdullah Mason. But to get to Keyshawn Davis, because I do have my fair share of opinions on Keyshawn Davis, not only about the whole debacle that happened between Kelvin Davis and the whole thing with the big brawl that happened after his brother Kelvin Davis had lost. He suffered his first loss, which we're going to also get into. I got to also talk about Keyshawn Davis, and I think he needs his own time, his own spotlight, because what he did was, if there was a definition of somebody folding the bag, it would definitely be Keyshawn Davis. Keyshawn Davis folded the ultimate bag. Not even just talking about the money aspect, but like in terms of killing any type of momentum shift that he could have had. Like, if people didn't look at Keyshawn Davis as a star before the fight, he would have definitely have been a star after the fight, especially if he would have stopped Edwin. Because despite what people may have thought, because again, I know people was probably looking at Edwin as, I don't want to say a easy opponent, but they obviously seen that Keyshawn had a greater chance of beating Edwin due to the odds, which I thought the odds was completely crazy, because Edwin, despite what the odds have said, is a lot tougher than people had realized. I know people are looking at the Shakur fight and thinking, okay, if he fought like that versus Shakur, I think Keyshawn beats him, but Edwin is not no slouch. This was a very dangerous opponent that Keyshawn took on, especially for his first title defense, which also makes the whole thing looks bad, because in your first title defense, you lose your belt, you come in 4 pounds overweight. He came in pretty much a 140 pounder. I want us to really sit here and realize how much that this hurt Keyshawn. Not only was this his first title defense, you lost your belt in your first, like, it wasn't even a title defense. He didn't even lose it in the title because he didn't even get the opportunity to even defend the title. He lost it, and what would have been his first title defense, he lost it, lost his belt. The main event gets canceled. You had Allen Iverson and Michael Vick and Floyd all looking at you. You had big names looking at you. You're headlining in your hometown once again. You hurt a big momentum shift. Again, not talking about the money, because we're going to get into that. But this would have been the start of a potential star for Keyshawn Davis, especially if you went in there and stopped Edwin. This would have been a momentum run for Keyshawn Davis. This will garner you the attention, the attention of the big names, and putting you in a conversation of a very dangerous opponent. But again, you ruined that. Not only did you ruin that, you messed up on a big payday. Let's talk about the money that you have messed up. Apparently, you supposed to have made $1 million from the Edwin fight, and that's not even including all of the money that you could have made after the fight. You see how bad this looks? Like, everything was going your way, and you dropped that, all because you was unprofessional. You was unprofessional, bro. Like come on now. You like I understand you probably outgrew the weight is one thing, but to not even try to make the weight is another thing, right? I forgot who it was. I think it was Mark Kriegel. I think it was. But he was like, during the weigh-ins, he went to go and touch Keyshawn's back, and he said he was extra dry. Like, he didn't even try to even attempt to even lose the weight. The whole fight gets canceled. Not only that, people demanded a refund in your hometown. A refund. I wanted to see the fight, because I wanted to know, how would you handle that? How would you handle a dangerous opponent, somebody that can swat. He's a big puncher, bro. Despite what people think about Edwin, he is a big puncher, and he's not that bad of a boxer. Edwin can box. And again, what would have been a huge momentum shift in a forward direction for Keyshawn, you dropped the ball, Key. You dropped the ball. And speaking of dropping the ball, we're going to get into Kelvin Davis versus Nair Albright, in which Kelvin Davis takes his first loss of his career versus Nair Albright in a fight in which I don't want to say he got dominated in, but it wasn't competitive. It was not competitive. Something I've seen numerous of times in that fight is Kelvin fights tall. And I've seen this with other fighters. I've seen this with Fundora. I've seen this in Espinoza. I've seen this with Kelvin Davis. When you have somebody that is extremely tall for their weight class, and they're so used to dominating their opponent, when they finally reach a opponent that is able to capitalize, or not even going to say that, somebody who's able to reach you, you see the flaws that they have. And a big flaw I seen with Kelvin Davis. Kelvin Davis does not change levels. That's how he got caught a few times with those right hands. Of course, he's also a southpaw, so he's right in line for a right hand. But he was getting caught because Nair would dip down and then he'll throw a right hand. Kelvin wasn't adjusting well to the dipping of Nair because, again, he fights so tall. And then, again, he's so tall for the weight class. He don't have no real defense other than to kind of lean backwards. And again, you're not putting yourself out of the way of a shot being thrown at you. You're kind of still in the way, and that was a ongoing thing throughout the fight. He finally adjusted to it, but it was a tad bit too late, right? It was a tad bit too late. The damage was already done. He's been hurt numerous of times, and then his confidence was starting to deteriorate as the fight was going on, which ultimately led him to suffer his first loss in his career. But that isn't the headline of the story. The headline of the story is what happened after Kelvin Davis suffers his first L in an event in which both Keyshawn Davis and Keon Davis went to confront Nair Albright, and which ended in a brawl after the Kelvin Davis fight. I'm not gonna lie. You know how I said earlier that the Keyshawn and how he missed weight and how he dropped the ball because of everything that happened, like how he missed weight and now he's not the main event, and then he missed out on a big payout of $1 million, things of that sort. That hurt his stock, but this definitely hurt his stock. And here's why it hurt his stock. I understand, right? Seeing your brother lose, I understand. It hurts. It hurts. I know it was pain. However, what hurt was the lack of professionalism throughout the whole weekend. Missing weight. You know, again, having Floyd and having all these big names. You have Allen Iverson. You have legendary people behind you for, again, the main event to be canceled. That hurt your stock. But the lack of professionalism, the lack of class, you know, confronting Nair and, again, it ending in a brawl over a loss with your, I think he's the oldest, so your older brother. That also hurts your stock. But what hurts to see out of that whole entire thing with Keyshawn Davis and the whole brawl, Keyshawn, your son was in the mix, bro. That's a bad look, Key. That's a horrible look. It's one thing to confront a man, to have a brawl. It's another thing when your son is in the stroller and he's in the mix of that. That looks bad. That was the worst out of all of that. That looked the absolute worst out of all of that. Out of you missing weight, like out of the fact that your son was in that fact that they had to pull your son from out of that. You ain't even get him out the way. They had to pull him out the way. That looks 10 times worse than anything that had happened the whole entire week. Again, from you missing weight, from you missing out on the payout, for you, that looks terrible. And it's on ESPN. It wasn't even a pay-per-view event. It's free on TV. If you had ESPN, which everybody has ESPN, they seen that. That's a horrible look, Key. That's a horrible look. Although Kelvin did come out and apologize for, the damage was already done. That is irreplaceable in people's minds. This was a tremendous hit to Keyshawn's stock. This whole weekend was a tremendous hit to his stock. I ain't gonna say I don't know how he bounces back, but it's definitely a huge hit to his stock, 100%. And it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot to build it back up. Like I said, you're talking about a potential star here. Going from that to now, you're being seen as a crash out. Irreplaceable. That's going to linger in people's minds for a minute. People still talk about Shakur and what he did years ago. That's going to forever linger in people's minds, Key. But if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and comment down below y'all thoughts and opinions about this horrific weekend for the DB3 brothers, and tell me y'all thoughts and opinions about Abdullah Mason's performance versus Nakatila. I believe his next fight, I think they're gonna try to set him up in his next fight to get the title shot. I think he's in line to get Keyshawn Davis's belt, being that Keyshawn is about to move up in weight. So I would love to see what his future looks like, because I think he's gonna be some real good fight. I would not mind seeing Abdullah Mason versus, I don't know how to say his name. It's like Ritala, I think it is. I would not mind seeing that fight. I think that's a really good fight. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit the red button that's to subscribe and click that bell, and make sure that bell is turned on to all, so you don't miss out on any future uploads like this one. And as always, it's your boy Remy, and I love you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.